What's good, everybody? It's your boy Strac Reacts back with another reaction video today. I hope you all are doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we got top 10 most important moments in British history. Please like, comment, subscribe, turn all post notifications on. Shout out to Watch Mojo. We tuning into his channel today. Original video link and channel link will be in the description down below. Let's get right into the video.
Are you ready for a history lesson?
Always ready.
Welcome
always
to Watch
ready.
Mojo UK,
always
and today
ready.
we're counting down our picks for the top 10 most important events in British history. Before we begin, if you enjoy this video, please subscribe.
I heard the
for more
man
great
subscribe
content.
to the channel, man.
For this list, we're looking at some of
love.
the key moments that have propelled Britain forward in the last 1,000 years. Obviously, we can't cram a millennium's worth of history into one video, so don't be surprised if there are some significant events we haven't covered just yet. Number 10, the failure of the Commonwealth.
I will give this nation back its self-respect.
The Protectorate was a period that took place during the Commonwealth when England, Ireland and Scotland were under the rule of Lord Protector Oliver Cromwell and subsequently his son Richard Cromwell. This was the only time in history that England had republican rule. Monarchists refer to this period as the interregnum, a time when there was no ruler on the throne of England. This resulted in the Restoration, which took place the following year. The demise of the republican rule still allowed many of the recently established democratic institutions to remain, which have endured until modern times. Number 9, American colonies declare their...
You know, I did a little research on that actually when I was in school. Not in school. It was back in research, you know, on my own time, my free time. I ain't learning nothing in school out here. I think we all know that. Thinking, Commonwealth, if I'm not mistaken, Commonwealth started after the end of the second end of the English Civil War. And the trial execution of, oh, come on, man. Charles the First. You see how I had to get my mind sharp again, man? So the biggest moment they're talking about is when they failed at that? Like when they failed?
Number 9, American colonies declare their independence.
We are chasing the bastards back to Boston, and we'll keep them there.
Prior to 1776, what we now know as the United States of America was simply a collection of 13 colonies on the east coast bordering the Atlantic. Residents there were becoming increasingly dissatisfied with the British rule and had been waging war on the Brits for more than a year. Finally, by the summer of 1776, all 13 of the colonies had agreed to segregate from England. Thomas Jefferson drafted the Declaration of Independence, which was then adopted by Congress. The American War of Independence was not yet finished. It would go on for another 5 years.
He's calling it the American War of Independence. Us Americans call it the American Revolutionary War. I'm like, wait a minute. We make it seem so, you know, we make it seem so big, yet it's only number 9 on the list. Ain't that something?
Number 8, the Great Fire of London.
Oh, man.
In the summer of 1666, a blaze engulfed the city of London, destroying almost everything in its path. 13,200 houses were taken, as well as 87 churches.
Oh, man.
It's estimated that the vast majority of London residents lost their homes to the fire. Strangely, amid all this destruction, there were hardly any reports of deaths taking place due to the fire. Historians have established several reasons for this. Firstly, the deaths of commoners were not always recorded, and secondly, the bodies may have been completely incinerated, leaving no evidence of how many really perished.
I heard the London Tower was actually in that area, man. The fire was right near the London Tower. It was probably right next to it. But the London Tower survived. Ain't nothing happened to the London Tower, man. Talk about the fire went from a Sunday to a Wednesday. Can you imagine a fire going from a Sunday to a Wednesday? All because somebody wanted to be irresponsible? Man, let's get right into it. Don't get me started now. Don't get me started on responsibility.
The city had to be entirely rebuilt, and some historians believe the fire was actually beneficial in a way because it eliminated many unsanitary and plague-infected buildings.
It was, but it wasn't.
Number 7, the Peasants Revolt.
You know, really supposed to happen like that.
Sort of peasant joke that I'm too rich to understand.
In the 14th century, British commoners had a lot to be upset about. The plague had recently wiped out a huge portion of the population, which meant that labourers were able to demand more money because workers were no longer so readily available. The government, however, set the Ordinance of Labourers, which cemented wages at the low amounts they were before the Black Death. They also levied a poll tax to fund the war against the French, which ate up even more of the peasants' wages.
Oh, wait, whoa.
All of this led to the Great Rising of 1381, which had an impact on the 100 Years' War because authorities were not able to raise taxes for funding as they had for prior conflicts. Number 6.
So the peasants revolted. The peasants revolted because of the plague, which then killed a lot of labor force. Basically, that's what he's saying. So then the labor force wages went up. So I mean, the people who have higher power, you know, basically the people who were in charge, basically set those wages back. After the wages were increased, they set those wages back to the original wages as of the time of the plague, and then increased tax rates. Half of men weren't able to vote because of the fact that they own land or they own businesses or etc. So that was actually crazy. Wait, what you mean I can't vote because I own something? You sound like a hater.
In 1928, that all women were granted the right to cast a vote. Number 5. The end of World War II. The entire period of the Second World War ranging from
Well, for some time, wait, I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. I want to see if he mentioned
progress. Many cite 1918 as the year that women in the UK gained the right to vote, but in fact, at that point it excluded women under the age of 30, as well as those who didn't independently own property. It was only a decade later.
But I thought it also excluded, I also thought for like, you know, half of the time, white women were only allowed to vote around this time, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Later in 1928, that all women were granted the right to cast a vote. Number 5, the end of World War II.
He clarified it, I mean, yeah.
The entire period of the Second World War, ranging from 1939 to 1945, was evidently a remarkable time in the history of the United Kingdom. Of the many things that came of the war, one of the most notable was a push for a bigger and more intervening government.
Right.
The welfare of people during wartime had become a government problem that was dealt with to the satisfaction of the population. A spirit of community-mindedness was also fostered by the difficult times of war, and the British people came out of the conflict with strengthened class relationships, which would lead to more left-leaning social policies moving forward. Number 4, Henry VIII severs ties with the church.
For the church this won't end well. I'm sending in my man Cromwell.
Henry VIII is probably most famous for his 6 wives, 2 of whom he had beheaded, and it was his desire to end his marriage with his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, that spurred on one of the key events in British history. Catherine was unable to give Henry the male heir he so needed, so he petitioned Pope Clement VII to annul his marriage. When he was refused, he took the radical step of severing ties with Rome and started the English Reformation.
Yup.
He named himself Supreme Head of the Church of England and was excommunicated from the Roman Catholic Church, though he always remained true to his Catholic upbringing. Number 3, the Magna Carta was signed.
Without loyalty, there is no kingdom. There is nothing.
The Magna Carta, which can be translated to the Great Charter, is one of history's most revered and renowned documents. It was instituted by King John of England, and the premise behind it was to ensure that every citizen, including the monarchy, would be subject to the law of the land. Much of the text has been edited since its inception, and very few of the clauses remain in modern law. But nonetheless, the Magna Carta is the basis of the British Constitution.
Welcome to today's world, my friend. You ain't gonna find too many things that's original anymore, man.
Many principles represented in the document have been influential in bills of rights around the world. Number 2, the Battle of Waterloo.
You want to kill your emperor? Here I am.
On June 18, 1815, Napoleon and his army marched to the Belgian village of Waterloo to fight against the Duke of Wellington and his army of Brits, Germans, and Belgians. Napoleon made some critical strategic errors which led to his troops losing the battle. This victory for England marked the end of France's dominance in Europe and a return to the previous power Britain had exerted for centuries. The result of this conflict is thought to have an impact on world history as well, bringing in a
Look at
period
that.
of relative peace, which
Look
allowed
how
for
crazy that
technical
is, man.
innovations and prosperity.
All because you got somebody leading you. This is why I'm glad the commanders and chiefs have more, I'm glad they're more level-headed and actually let these troops speak up and have their freedom of speech, because boy, back then I tell you, if they snap their finger and tell you jump, you better jump. Cause bro, like, this is crazy. Look at all the people dead in the same spot following one person. War was a lot different back then. I feel like war was way more unfair back then because of the fact that you had to listen to somebody on that field at all times. You still have to listen to somebody in the field during war now, but everybody gets to call the shots. This is a team thing. All of our lives are involved. That many people would not die. But war was held differently back then. They used to meet up on the field and all that. They was for real with it. We ain't doing that now. We sending drones, helicopters, planes. We ain't doing that now. They was meeting up in the field back then, face to face. That's for real. That's hard right there. Rest in peace to all them soldiers, man. That's hard right there.
Number 1, the Battle of Hastings. Nearly 1,000 years ago, the face of England was forever changed. In a battle won by William the Conqueror, the Anglo-Saxon King Harold was killed with an arrow through the eye. The outcome of the Battle of Hastings impacted British life, culture and language in innumerable ways. The language of official documents became Latin, but of even more impact was the influence of the French language over English, especially in the tradition of names. Traditional Anglo-Saxon names began to disappear in favour of French names that we today consider inherently English, like William, Henry and Robert. Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from Watch Mojo UK.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Please let me know down below in the comments how you guys felt about this video. Was this top 10 list accurate? I felt like there was I could probably name about 3 events that also could have been added in this list, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. I can't even lie, man. But you guys let me know down below how you felt about this list. Was it accurate? Please spam my comment section with whatever y'all want me to react to next. Once again, it's your boy Strac Reacts, clocking out with another reaction video. I love y'all. Stay safe, and I'm going to catch you on the next one.